Torazan everyone, and welcome to another great and exciting episode of Izasendumbeni. Today I want to talk about a topic that's really close to my heart, and it's something that I find a lot of people suffer with and suffer from, and it simply speaks to someone's self-worth, someone's actualization, someone being cognizant of self, and someone who is quite reflective. Because if you are part of any of the things that I mentioned, you would realize that it plagues the nation, it plagues the people around us, and unfortunately it affects the people that are concerned on all levels. Jealousy. Guys, today we're talking about the haters alefati, people who are not content with who they are, with what the good Lord has blessed them with. We're talking about people who struggle with being amongst other people and still remembering that everyone's journey is different. I remember some time ago I gave the analogy or the example about the 5 fingers that sit on a hand and how all of them are different sizes. You know, they're different shapes, they're different sizes, shapes and forms. Some even have like indentations, some stronger than the others. But when that hand comes together, when those fingers come together, they work a lot better than if they tried to work on their own. Try picking up a bucket full of water with just your pinky. That would hurt as hell, and it wouldn't be very effective in you trying to pick it up. Versus if you use all 5 fingers that sit on the hand, you'd carry it, you wouldn't even feel the weight as much as you did previously, and you'd go a lot further. What I'm trying to say is each of our fingers have their own role to play. Some pick noses, some point, some express feeling, some we use to press remotes, and some are more delicate and we use them in the softer parts of our bodies. All those fingers serve for a different need. They're all important equally and individually, yet amongst all the other fingers they form from a greater part of their purpose and are able to go a lot further. Ribuaka jealousy, ribuaka people that struggle with contentment, who experience a lot of resentment, and we're going to talk about them in the many different spheres that we find ourselves riddled and affected by this rather very bad and crass emotion. Just to share a few descriptions of, or rather synonyms of jealousy, they would go as follows: bitterness, insecurity, anxiety, envy, resentment, discontentment, grudge. And this is something that will also add to one feeling as if they're defeated. Also, I feel like there's some level of entitlement when it comes to someone who expresses jealousy, because they've justified it enough in their hearts that this is something that is worth, doing or expressing to someone else. Almost like they don't believe that this, whatever beauty or thing that's going on in someone else's life is not supposed to happen to others, but supposed to start with them, and necessarily they should also get the same blessings that other people do. Whereas they don't know the amount of time you put into your craft. They don't know what you do in your spare time, in your more quiet times when you could be out socializing, but you choose to close yourself in to work on the type of person you are, to fine-tune your character, to really sit down with yourself to learn about who you are. Sadly, we find that we spend a lot of time with people who are that kind of way towards us. Quite jealous, unhappy people. They come in the form of friends, they come in the form of colleagues. You could be sharing an environment with someone who has the same opportunity in terms of training, but we all grasp differently, we all learn differently, we all use these opportunities differently based on our interests and how much we really want it, and as well as how far are we willing to go for it. And then turns out that we don't end up using that same resource or blessing the same way. You know, we've chosen who we want to be within the moments that we're presented with. And then you find someone who's going to be upset or feeling as if you're not worthy of the achievement or the attainment that you have or the accolade that you receive from being able to fully utilize this opportunity, space, and environment. Like, I'm trying to understand what brings a person to a place of having so much hate in their heart and discontentment and dissatisfaction with themselves that they really, really feel the need to go out of their way to firstly express. You know, it's one thing when you feel jealous internally and it's a conversation that you have on your own. Because whenever we do something wrong, it's always reflective of who we are. Like, we see ourselves do these things. If I'm going to swear at someone, I'm going to feel the emotion, I'm going to express myself, I'm going to swear. I am going to see myself do these things. Whether I'm right or wrong is a different part of the conversation. So there's nothing that you can possibly do to someone and not actually reflect with it and see yourself do it. But what allows the person to feel that it's okay to carry on behaving this way? Other forms or other areas where you can experience jealousy are in relationships that we keep with people. Perhaps with ukobela wako or your teacher or someone who is in an area of influence over your life. Perhaps I meet you and you come to me and say, Gogo Moyo, I need a bit of training. And I'm struggling to participate in the world and be in control of my body. I'm struggling to fit into society because there's something that's very loud about me that needs attention. I agree. We do all the necessary processes to make sure that we are aligned, student to teacher. We qualify and we start your training. And once I realize that, and we go through some of the rituals and the processes, I actually see that you're quite a powerful person. When the more you grow and the more you exercise, you know, your gifts and you connect. But as a teacher, I grow a seed of having jealousy, because how in the world can I train someone and they become better than me? Almost like my mind cannot deal with that kind of reality. Like, almost like I'm disillusioned by what's going on around me. It's important for a person to self-reflect, because they'll know which role to play. And within the role, they'll know which of themselves to bring to the fore. Other areas where you can experience jealousy is being a part of a group. A part of a study group, a team, a soccer team, an anything team, a fraternity. Being part of an alumni or any group that you may find yourself in, which in most instances there is a subtle competition between how well one does, how much they achieve, and how far they go. The healthy kind, because the competition comes in twofold. It's either you're going to be very aggressive and always want to win to a point where you lose your moral standing, or give up yourself to immorality, because you'd rather attain and achieve this award and recognition more than do it in a way that is respectable, which is honoring of the next person. In these groups that we find ourselves in, for instance, twasa to twasa level, people who come into the same school and they have the same teacher, they have the same environment, the differences could be badimo baba twasang and where they come from. Those are the short differences that you can find amongst amatwasa, because it shows ability. It also proves how far one can go, whether it's from an intellect perspective, a activity and an action-based perspective, or it comes from a financial standing. All these people could be different in their own right, but all of them are out to achieve the same thing. Bukhoshi babona, ukula wabo. You know, to attain intwaso yabo namadlozi wabo. That's the same goal for all of them. But you may find that there's a healthy competition between these individuals of ubanokita kamnandi, ushaya isigubhu kahle, and not even on a bad and good, but a who's better to actually motivate me to step up my game, to be more focused, to be more present, and to really, really, really put my back into it, versus someone who will intentionally sabotage you, intentionally not want to share information with you, the same learnings that you get from the same teacher. And those relationships are also part of where you can experience umona from. You know, like, there's something that I also I find I struggle with, I battle with the most, is the sense of level of entitlement to feel as if someone else is not allowed or cannot or is not worthy enough or is accepting, or even, I don't know what this word is that I'm looking for, but like, I'll tell you motho o mongwe go lana dilo tsa hae di ka tsamaya pele mo phelong ba hae. O bona hantle gore kwena fela motho o tshwanetse thole dilo tse pila o tshwanetsengwe. It doesn't like make a lot of sense for me when I think about the way people treat each other, the relationships they find themselves in. Like, what kind of degree of entitlement is that? Like, more unahanang gore you have to be special, superior, of a different cloth. Like, that kind of being vain is crazy, because it speaks to how everything is about you and it's centered around self. And for the longest part, being a child in my home and having siblings, I was taught to be happy for and celebrate those around me, because there's much I can learn from someone who has walked the path that I haven't walked before. Much like how I can teach what I can teach in the spaces that I've been to, because I have first-hand experience. I would be a gem when it comes to the topics of what I know. And so would you, in the spaces where you excel, where you thrive. So if I'm gonna try and excel in both these spaces, surely one of them is going to fall short. Why are we, as people, more accepting of awards and recognition more than we are to accept the situations we find ourselves in? You know, there's a difference between you being accepting of the situation and you settling in it and becoming it or becoming of it. There's a difference, because one speaks to having arrived. So you've concluded on the fact that your life is in the dumps, it's not going to go anywhere, it's not worth celebrating, you're not going to find your big revelation, and. All that's morbid and somber conversation around it. Versus you being accepting of the situation and being able to change whatever it is that displeases you. Reflect enough to tell the difference when something is beyond your control and when you have an area of influence. There are a lot of things that happen to us. A lot of bad things happen to good people. But it doesn't change who they are. Much like in relationships, when you get into a relationship, the aim is not to destroy the person that you found and leave them in a lesser quality than they were before. That doesn't express love. It doesn't show that you care about the next person. It's always about leaving them better than they were when you came into their lives. Whether you've enlightened them in the way they could live their life or influence them in a way that makes them positive. But never to make this person worse or lesser than how you found them. Just to share a little something that I came across while doing some reading. Romans 12, verse 2. Don't copy the behavior and the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. As part of the fraternity that I was talking about, you could find that you go to the same school with your peers and you end up being called to serve your purpose differently. You may be elevated fast enough to be a leader or an influencer in the spaces you find yourself in. You can be quickly promoted to being someone who teaches and has vast amount of knowledge. Whether you find it odd or unprepared for, or you're marveled by it. Let's say my friend and Ntle, both of us are in training for Ubunyanga. And the whole time, Ntle's really, really good with bones. Bone reading. I struggle. I can't get the knowledge, the logic behind it. I see all these pieces, but I'm like, how do you read that whole how do you get that whole conversation from these like weird looking bones, But then you find in a different space, I'm really, really good ngomuti. I catch on quickly when it comes to herb. I can identify with it via sight, via smell, via taste. It's via touch. Like, to me, picking up impande is nothing. Whereas Nkle struggles tremendously with that. They all look green, they all look beige, they all look the same, and there's some smell just the same. Like, how do you differentiate these things? If anything, her and I is better off as a team, because we can teach each other what the other lacks, versus us always trying to look better than the other, because I can and she can't, and vice versa. If quickly I get the luck of Khobale Matwasa right after getting initiated, that is how Sidim Saka has been called to work. That is how I've been ordained. That's how I am blessed. It could take Nkle many years before she even has her first trainee. But customer-wise, she's really, really good. She brings people to great wellness. She's very good with holistic healing. To her, dealing with people is something so easy. And she can spot people's troubles and quickly in her mind remedy the situation. Whereas I'm called differently. My role is to take care of others and to teach others. Let each other strive and thrive in the spaces you find yourselves in. If you find yourself in a position where you are experiencing jealousy, mourner, and you can't contain yourself, sit down quietly and reflect with self. Ask yourself, why does this bother me? What about this person bothers me? Then you can be more introspective, reflective, and there's no amount of self-improvement that can make up for the lack of self-acceptance. So irrespective of how many new things you try and implement in your life, if you are not accepting of self, they're all a waste of time. If you experience jealousy, rather go to the person and ask them, I'm struggling with this. I see that you're doing really, really amazingly well at it. Could you please spare a few moments? Talk to me through it. I really have a big interest in it. This person could be very kind, loving enough to share with you and say, come, let me show you. Then you will now be in a position of being able to take care of your own interests rather than watching other people excel and being affected by it. Acceptance only doesn't end on you accepting self, but also the situations you find yourself in, your ability to do, your influences, your knowledge. For as long as you don't read up on things, you won't know that they exist. For as long as you don't get into the circles where these conversations are had, you won't know they exist. For as long as you don't invest in yourself, whether it is to reflect, meditate, give yourself time out to actually figure out what it is that you want. Go onto the net, find out about the things you're interested in. See who influences those spaces. Who's really good in your age group, speaks to you the most when it comes to you being inspired by them. And reach out. There's a difference between being rejected by that person and also a lack of trying. Because fear cripples all of us. We're afraid of accepting ourselves. We're afraid of being different. We're afraid of stepping out of the square that's been put in front of us. Because we don't know what else lies there. I can tell you this for free. All the amazing people that you look up to don't do basic things because they've allowed themselves to step over those lines that have been put in front of them. Believe in yourself enough to know that you can do just about anything. Ask for help. Don't hold a grudge. Don't hold people's names, in your heart. and wish them ill. Don't take your last money that you could live off and go to your nearest healer and bewitch them. Like, don't be a toxic person, because karma is a thing and we all create our own karma. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who you think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. This is Breen Brown. Guys, in closing, embrace the glorious mess that you are. There's absolutely no one that's perfect. We all have our little demons in our closets that we try hide away. We all have our insecurities. You know, I can't stop the joy that's in my heart and stop myself from smiling because I have crooked teeth. It makes no sense. You can't stop yourself from having or being the best version of yourself because you have something that pulls against you or poses as a threat. That's what life is. It's a challenge. It's a journey. Watch yourself grow. Expect the people around you to change, to grow. Growth is not standard to you alone, but for everything that happens each and every day that lives to form, reform, and evolve. Allow yourself a winning chance. I hope you guys enjoyed today's session on being reflective and not allowing the devil to use us, not allowing our vices to be what sparks our conversations. Always strive to leave the people around you better off than how you found them. Don't be the toxic person in your friendship. Don't be the toxic person in your relationship. Don't be the problem in the spaces that you find yourself in. Embrace who you are. Embrace your talents. Work on them daily. Work on yourself daily. Always choose positivity and rise above it all. Thokozani.